Hi everybody, my name is Kit Rackley and I'm an educator in the United Kingdom. This is really an unscheduled video. Those of you who watch this channel quite often know I don't usually schedule videos until at the end of the month. But this is an ongoing issue right now, which is very close to me. Um, and that's the Bridger Foothills Fire that's taking place in Bozeman, Montana right now. And I really wanted to make a video. I mean, there are wildfires happening all over the world, and there's quite a lot happening in the Western United States right now. So why this one? Why particular now? And why do I want to support this community in particular? And the video is going to talk about how you can help fundraise perhaps for the people that are being impacted by this. So if I start by giving some personal background first, I'm actually by proxy a member of the Bridger Canyon Bozeman community. I mean, not so much that I don't see people there every day, and I'm not there every day, and people have been there for decades and generations. But I married into the area, so my wife's family have a place out there, and they have a connection there for generations. I think my wife's like the third generation of a connection that's there. And I first visited in 2005, and this is me there with my partner's my father-in-law, now father-in-law's dog, and that's the Bridger Canyon area there. In 2007, my wife and I got married out there, and this is an absolute beautiful picture of my mum wandering the fields around the house with the foothills of the bridges just there in the background. Lots of visits to and fro. Now, as a member of the family, in 2012, I was exceptionally fortunate for the family to say, "Hey, yeah, we can use the house as a base for a field trip for high school students," because I used to be a high school geography teacher, and I was so lucky to take 12 high school teachers, and we used the house as a base, and they explored the area. So that's some of the students there in Bridger Canyon, and that's a photo of them visiting the Howlers Inn, which is just up the road on Jackson Creek Road. And more recently, this is the last time I was actually there. An absolute beautiful image of the bridges here with my eldest there on the swing set in the foreground. So you can see for me, I've got quite a deep personal connection to this place. But this doesn't compare to even my family, who's got a connection to this place. I mean, this is their house. This is their second family home, but it's on the back of a deep family connection. Um, and the house is now used as a place for family reunions and family get-together and things like that. And it certainly doesn't come anywhere close to the magnitude of people where this is their whole entire livelihood. They live here completely, and their whole livelihood is in a house in this canyon or in the area. And so I just wanted to kind of help them through here. And you may have noticed that actually in the top, I'll have there most of the time. I'll have that link for a relief page, an official relief page that you can take a look at if you're watching this from anywhere outside of the United States or out of Montana, and you do want to chip in a pound or two or a dollar or two. So let's give some geographical kind of context to this now. First of all, for those of you who are not from the United States or from Montana, let's just give some kind of background here. And so Bozeman, Montana is located just north of Yosemite National Park here. So just zoom in here, there. You can see how it's through this kind of gap between the mountain ranges here. And if I just kind of zoom in and kind of like tilt the view, you can see there's the town of Bozeman. And then in the background there, that's the Bridger Range, the Bridger Mountain Range. And this is where the ignition point of the fire was. I don't know if you can quite see it here, but there is a very famous landmark called the College M, which is very significant. So if you just see it, it's a little white speck kind of on the side of the hill there. And that's very significant because that is where the ignition point of the fire took place. And I'll come back to that in a second. Now, the area is quite susceptible to wildfires. I mean, it's not a parched climate. It's not a very arid climate, but it does get fairly warm in the summer, as you can see here from this climate graph. So temperatures, averaging in the 75 degree. So let's just double check. Yeah, 75 degrees, kind of like 20 degrees Celsius. And of course, that's an average, so it can get quite warm. And times I've been there, it can have to be 90 degrees Fahrenheit. It can get quite warm there. But you can see there the kind of uneven rainfall pattern there, and particularly in the summer months where the rainfall kind of does, the precipitation levels do drop. But what's actually more important here is that if you look at the number of days that the rain falls or precipitation falls, because some of the precipitation falls as snow sometimes as well, is that even though you've got these lower winter precipitations here, you've got higher, kind of slightly higher, more days of precipitation. So you've got more kind of like longer periods of light snow or rain during the winter time. But then when the summertime comes, you've got lower precipitation and you've got fewer days. So that what that tends to mean is that there's more days without rain and fewer days with quite intense downpours. And in fact, you get quite a lot of spectacular convectional rainfall and thunderstorms and lightning, which also can produce wildfires if they strike tinderous areas. And the other pre-existing condition is the drought. Montana and the western United States in particular, they're going through periods of drought right now, particularly the last decade or two. Right now, Montana is okay by historical standards. I mean, most of it, over 58% of it, is classified as abnormally dry right now, and you can see there the pin there, which is where Bozeman is, and actually the kind of the Bridger. If you look at the kind of just to the east of that, that's the Bridger Range just there, and you see that area is at the moment classified as an abnormally dry area. So conditions where the trees, the undergrowth, and the bark and the vegetation is quite harsh, quite dry, and it can be quite susceptible to fires to take place. And if you have a look in the context, really, actually, the last few years it's not been too bad in terms of precipitation rates and drought. It's definitely compared to previous years. I mean, when I first went to Montana, you can see there right there in 2004 and 2005, there was a very deep drought that hit Montana, and I remember down in the wedding in 2007 come along. There wasn't much recovery in precipitation rates, and we were actually really worried about whether the ceremony and everything would be impacted by wildfires, and we were actually quite lucky that it actually rained that summer. So to go back to the fire now, we've built the context here that it's quite dry, it's quite tinderous, and a lot of this place is susceptible to fire, and there's a high fire risk, and there's restrictions about what you can do. There's like no open fires in the area, and there must be controlled burns done by the authorities and things like that. And then on Friday the 4th, so just a few days ago, a fire ignited by the Bozeman M. So this is why I said that this was quite significant here. And this is an absolute amazing image here captured by Laurel Collar. And you can see here, so here's the College M. You can see it quite clearly, but you can see looks like there's two ignition points here. There's one there, one there. Now I don't know which one was the one that started it, whether it was this one here and then you had to jump to this hot spot or vice versa. But this is where it started. Now, interestingly, the fire. So Bozeman is towards the camera. So of course the initial concerns would have been that the fire could have spread down this way, and then Bozeman, where Bozeman's situated towards the west. And actually, Laurel did tell me in a message to say that she actually watched this unfold for quite a bit, and she noticed that the first few kind of fire retardant drops from planes and from helicopters actually did try and cap the spread of the fire down here, down to stop it coming down here, which was very, very interesting. But also the winds, you can see from the direction of smoke, the winds are pushing it up the hillside and up towards the ridge. And in fact, that was a key thing of what happened. And the winds when this happened were quite strong, and there were quite strong wind gusts that took place. So then moving on to this one, this is now a few hours later, and this is going into the night time, into the early hours of the next day. And it's amazing time lapse here. You can see how this it's just spread and it's combusted, and it's moved eastwards and it's crested the ridge, and now it's spreading over to the eastern side of the range. And the fire went from 400 acres to 7,000 acres in a very short space of time. And as soon as the heavy winds able to carry it over the ridge, kind of the winds then and the pressure gradient just pushed it down the side, and then just able to fan those flames down the eastern side of the Bridger Canyon, that ridge there, just on top of the M. And you can see how that's just bellowing over the side there, and that's how the spread continued. It then continued east and north along the ridge, as I will show you. So this is an official ops map. So it shows you kind of the area that's been burning. So this is kind of, I think this was yesterday's burn map. So there's the ignition point right there. That's where the College M is, and just right there, here's the crest that you saw there. So there's the top of the Bridger. So this is the southern edge of the Bridger Range. It's the whole Bridger Range here. This is the southern tip here. So the fire has pushed itself up the ridge eastwards, and as soon as it's got over the ridge here, it's then spread to the east and to the north, helped by those very strong wind gusts. I'll come back to this map a little bit later because I actually want to show you something pretty cool in terms of its construction. And this was made by Rob Maher, who's a professor at Montana State University. And I'll make sure I put the YouTube link for all of these, or the links for all of these things, including this YouTube video. So what Rob has done here is that he's taken the data from those websites, all the coordinates, the GPS coordinates, and whatnot, and he's overlaid them onto Google Earth. So he takes you on a virtual flyover here of the burnt area. So this is of September the 7th, so yesterday. So we've got there the M, and then a recognisable landmark for locals of the Drinking Horse. I've hiked that a few times. So you can, this gives you a bit of source of the magnitude and the scale, and for those of you who are watching this who are from the area, you can now get a sense of location and place and how far this fire has spread into Bridger Canyon. So now this is Bridger Canyon, which is actually a glacial trough. Jackson Creek Road, which is what I mentioned. The Howler's Inn is further up to the east on Jackson Creek Road, and this is the area where the Housel family is. And this is the northern edge of the burn so far, and up towards the Bridger Bowl ski area. And I'll mention the Bridger Bowl ski area a little bit later. So you can really see the sense of scale and how quickly that this fire expanded. So as soon as it got over that ridge and it started, and the winds helped to funnel it down that other side and push it north and eastward, you can see how quickly it's just spread, and exceptionally concerning for anybody with property on the eastern side of the ridge. So go back into that map right now. And one thing I do want to actually make a mention is that you notice that this red symbol all along here is kind of like red, kind of like jagged teeth symbol here. This is the border that they use in these maps to indicate that the fire is not contained at that border. So you can see that everywhere you see it's got that red symbol, that red border, that means the fire has not been contained. And last time I checked the statistics, it still said it was 0% contained. In other words, without any part of this border can expand without proper protection measures, and I'm not quite sure of the mechanics of how it all and what they actually mean by contained, but in other words, it's still a risk of being spread here. I just want to point out a few things here. So here's Bridger Canyon Road, so Bozeman's just here, so you've got the town of Bozeman is pretty much behind me around this area here. And then Bridger Canyon Road, so when we go out to the house from Bozeman, we always take this road, Highway 86, Bridger Canyon Road. And what's really interesting, you see here's the crest here of the ridge, the southern end of the ridge. And you see actually quite how this burn mark does follow the contours quite well, and that the highway itself did act as a fire break. So you see down there, you see that the fire did not progress further than that road, and also there's a bit of a more of a canyon, more of a drop off at that point as well when you go around that road. So that would have also helped as a fire break. So the fire is kind of like following the contours of the valley and the road, and if that road was not there, that fire would most definitely have spread a lot further east and into those properties. And every single black dot you see there is a property. So it's very sad and unfortunate. You can see that all these properties here have been caught in the fire zone, whereas the properties to the east of the road have so far been spared. If we move a little bit further north, a bit to the area here where the property that I'm very familiar with here. So there's Bridger Canyon Road going up again, and you can see that for the most part the burn doesn't go past Bridger Canyon Road, but there was a particular point where the road failed to continue to act as a fire break anymore. So just here in the middle, you can see how now that red zone has pushed over Bridger Canyon Road, and for people with the properties on the eastern side of Bridger Canyon Road, now there's even more concern. And I'll show you a video in a second to show you what this area looks like. You see how the crest of the ridge has acted as a fire break on the western side, but because the winds were pushing this way, there was not as much risk of it spilling back this way towards Bozeman itself. What's really interesting here, though, is two other things acted as fire breaks as well, and you probably can't see it very clearly on here. But if you look to the right hand side of that map, you see the blue line. That's Bridger Creek, and both the shape of the land, how it bottoms up down into Bridger Creek, and the kind of the flood zone around it has actually acted as a fire break in itself. And the local roads leading to people's properties have acted as fire breaks as well. So you can see there where I've pointed there's a local road. There's a local road there called TP Ridge, and that's acted as a fire break, and it's prevented the fire spreading over to to the eastern side of TP Ridge. So this is some drone footage that I took in 2018 when I was last there, and you can see on the map there I've just put an X indicating which direction we're looking at. So we're looking towards the Bridger Range, and here's the foothills right here. So this is what the land looks like right here. And one thing that the people that own these properties do very, very often is that they try and make sure that the land here is either cultivated or the grass is kept as low as possible before the burn season starts, before the fire season starts. So on our property, for example, we always get someone to mow the grass, collect it up as hay, bale it, and then take it away rather than allow that grass to grow. So that's another way of fire management as well. And then we mow around as much around the property as much as we can to make sure that the grass is as low as possible. So kind of everybody does that. And the fact that you've got a bit more of an open woodlandless plain here is also helping to stop spread that fire. So as that fire has come down from here and has come down this way and started spreading up here, and here's Bridger Canyon Road right here, you can see how all these individual things act as individual fire breaks and have saved properties. And this is important because it gives the local authorities the chance to actually do further prevention works that maybe spray buildings directly with fire retardant, or help to form more fire breaks, not official fire breaks. Or so what they exactly do and what they do, I'm not sure, but you can see how this is managed to with fire risk in mind. So now this is footage from the ground from when the fire was coming over the ridge. So this is actually taken by a family member at the house, and you can see for us in particular that the real concern here. So if I play this video, you can actually see the flames and the smoke coming this way, and there's the foothills of the range, and that's currently burning towards Bridger Canyon Road, as indicated in the previous map, and then towards those local roads that I saw. So unfortunately, by this stage, those properties on the western side of Bridger Canyon Road and on the foothills, were at serious risk now, and there have been reports that unfortunately some properties have been lost there. And here's another bit of footage taken about 24 hours later from a neighbour, looking roughly in the same direction but a little bit of higher elevation, so you can see, and you can just see all the area that's burned. So Bridger Canyon Road is just about here, and you can see how this whole entire the foothills there and then the ridge has just burnt across, and some of that burn has made its way across Bridger Canyon Road as well. It turned up just kilometres from away, or a kilometre away from the properties on the eastern side of the road. So one last thing to show you before I go on to the impacts is this quite incredible government video here from a large UAV drone. And what I will say actually right now is that people on the Facebook group, which I'll come to in a minute, support Facebook group, were actually very, very worried and quite rightly angry that some people were flying personal drones. And of course, when they're flying personal drones, they're interfering with the airspace. The airspace gets closed down because, of course, all the operations, the helicopters, the aircrafts that are going, and they're throwing water and fire retardant all over the area. So there was initial concern about this video that came on, but it was confirmed that this was a government and sanctioned drone footage to get a survey of what's taking place. The green crosshairs here sort of match the crosshairs, the red crosshairs on the right side. Don't quite match perfectly, but if I just pause here, because this is a pretty good place to pause, if I catch this. Okay, so here's a really, really good aerial view now of what we can see these fire breaks. So I was talking about those local roads acting as fire breaks as well. So here's Bridger Canyon Road here, if I just lean back. So here's Bridger Canyon Road, but then you can see how it's spilt over Bridger Canyon Road. Maybe a sudden gust of wind, or a sustained sudden gust of wind has taken it over the road, and has done the same here with the Laughing Horse area here. So, and then that's able to spread and burn this way. But can you see that even small local roads, and this local road here, TP Ridge Road, it's just enough for two cars to place, and it's a gravel road as well. But even that was enough, in combination with the fact that the grass was mostly mown and low, to act as a fire break to stop this area then burning. So it's a really good kind of visual indication there of kind of like these management techniques that take place to spread fires from burning, because the community are very, very aware of the fire risk before this happened, so all these were taking place beforehand. So I'm just going to fast forward a tiny bit here, because this is a really great bit where the drone now follows one of these planes. So in response, so we have and the skill of these pilots is absolutely remarkable, because you'll see very shortly how close this plane actually gets to ground level, because you get to see its shadow, and then at that point you'll get to see it release its red fire retardant. So this is now moving to the northern edge of the burn zone here, so if you can see that on the map. So it's coming in to try and see if it can get to this point here, and you'll see here. So here's the plane's shadow, how close it gets to the ground there, and then you'll see it now dropping its retardant. So so absolute totally kudos to the pilots and all the logistical people behind this that make this happen. It's absolutely incredible that the amount of effort to do that. And of course, as I just mentioned, if there's any personal interference, like personal drones or anything like that taking place, they cannot have those operations take place, because it can be quite dangerous. So the current situation as I make this video, well, the latest update to this website was 11 a.m. Mountain Daylight Time, which is the local time there. They're 7 hours behind the United Kingdom right now, and it currently says here just over 7,000 acres of area have been burnt. So not much growth since that initial. Fortunately for the community, they were happy to hear that over Sunday in particular, there was not much growth at all. From 7,000 to only 100 or so acres have burnt since. So let's now have a look at the impacts. And one person I caught on Twitter here was Paul Osincup, who has a house on that side of Bridger Canyon Road, on the western side in the foothills, and it's absolutely terrifying picture, really, where you have your house in the foreground here, and you can just see these flames in the background, and because the way that smoke is moving, that is potentially moving towards you and down there. And actually, when the authorities allowed people to go back into the area because it was safe enough to check on properties or animals and livestock and stuff like that, Paul then went back and took some more pictures and shared, and thank you, Paul, for giving me permission to share these as well. And he shared these on Twitter, and he was absolutely thankful for his neighbours, because his neighbours had noticed upon checking on the area that actually his house actually did catch fire, burned through an electrical socket and started to burn through the kitchen, but the neighbours were very quick to act and put the fire out before there was any further damage. And I'll put the link to Paul's Twitter feed on there, so you can check out what he said. And he's got a fantastic sense of humour, Paul, from what I've seen from his profile and whatnot. And I think that kind of upbeat spirit is definitely going to be important for the community. And I'll come back to in a minute, because there's something that they are doing very, very well with. And here's another one. And thank you, Luana, for sharing this. And this is devastating. And unfortunately, she reported that as far as she could see, most of her property was gone, and you could just see the charred ground and the smoke coming up there. And this. So whereas people like me have got a deep connection, fine, but some of these people might have, this could be their livelihood, and all their property are in these one properties and things like that, and it's absolutely devastating. Now they've got to go through the process of rebuilding and getting back up on their feet. But I'm very, very upbeat about the potential of this, because the community have been fantastic, which I'll come to in a second. And of course, the other impact, of course, is the people have had to get out. So whether their home was directly at risk or not, the other thing that judges evacuation is smoke levels as well, because smoke is toxic and it can cause breathing problems, and that can be just as bad as well. So whole areas of that canyon were closed off, and are still closed off, as this announcement today from the Gallatin County Sheriff's Office says. That some of these areas still remain closed. So a lot of people, including my family members, are out there now, have evacuated, and as far as I'm aware, they're not yet. Most of the areas are not yet allowed. People are not yet allowed back in. So the response from the authorities, well, you saw the picture at the start of the helicopter. They're doing the water drops and the flights, which throwing the flame retardant down to try and stop the progress of the fire. But you've got all sorts of agencies and lots of interconnections and interoperability that are taking place. All these because of COVID and things like that. They're doing their daily briefings online, so via Facebook, and the sheriff's office is doing it on Facebook, and one is taking place in another few hours' time. So they give all the residents, the locals, an update of what's taking place. They're so really good at keeping the public informed. You've got Bridger Canyon Fire Department, which I think is mostly staffed by volunteers, and they do all sorts of things. And they're not just out putting out the fire; they're out trying to make preparations to stop the fire spreading even further. So, fire retardation efforts, making sure that the fire will not catch on any other buildings or creating fire breaks, and they are working absolutely tirelessly. From what I've been reading on the Facebook community group, and everybody who's involved in this, the people here are going out surveying, checking on things, and seeing what they can do, and it's just incredible the amount of work that's taking place with the authorities and with help with the local people as well. So, um, absolutely fantastic. And that brings me on to the community response now. So on Facebook, you've got the Bridger Foothills Fire Info Resources, and that sprung up really, really quickly. And when I joined it, after it only gone live for just a few hours, really, it already had 5,000 members. And when I took this screenshot just a couple of hours ago, it's gone up to 10,000 members, and it's completely inundated with offers of condolences, of support, mostly of support and upbeat stories, which is what I really, really like about it. There's a lot of people sharing some really upbeat, we've got this, we can do this kind of community spirit, and it's absolutely been fantastic to read through that. So here's a few I've just picked out, and thank you all you people who have given me permission to share these. I really, really love Kathleen's videos here. Absolutely amazing. And actually, Kathleen was really quite cool at trying to get organised people to see if they can round up people with trailers and whatnot to go and see if they can retrieve livestock and horses and things like that, because a lot of people there do have livestock and horses, and so that was a really big initial effort to see if they can get the okay from the authorities to go in and get their livestock and whatnot out. And things like here, and here's and Alex has been collecting all the donations that have come in via the Salvation Army, and he says in this one, if I've got 18 pallets today to sort out, and you can see keeping upbeat there, Alex, like absolutely over the moon that all of this generosity has just come in, so that's all being organised. I really love this one from Sarah, who said that I might have broken some ribs yesterday, but I still want to help out. And that's really indicative of the kind of like the determination and the spirit that this community has got. And not surprisingly, when the tragedy happens in an area, the community really does. I wanted to share Craig's one again. Craig, thank you for allowing me to share this. Craig, I believe, and please do correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe he's either a volunteer or he works at the Bridger Canyon Fire Station, and he gave an update and he gave some further details in this post of his. But he just wanted to give some thanks of all the donations that have come into the fire crew, because it's not just the people who have been affected. These guys are putting an exceptional physical and mental effort to safeguard people's homes and put out the fire and do all and support and everything and evacuate, and that they need some support and donations, and we heard on the Facebook group how they need chapstick because they're just drying out, and and I love that picture in the bottom right, like kegs of coffee, just to keep them going. And so that was a really, really lovely post that we saw from Craig there. And I mentioned earlier about the kind of the mental health side of things and the legal side of things, insurance kind of things, and this post from Jen was really, really good one, and she goes into some detail. She says, I'm not, don't take this as legal advice, you can't, things like that, but here's something you can do based on my experience and from my legal background and whatnot. This is some things here, but the thing in particular that was really, really good, which she mentioned, was here about you know give yourself a bit of self-love, a bit of care, allow yourself to have these emotions. It's okay to feel really stressed and anxious and things like this. And there was quite a lot of posts actually about mental health and taking good mental health care of yourself, and that is absolutely wonderful, because in this day and age, in 21st century, there is no room for stigma with mental health. And this is going to be a time when the dust settles and then after all this feverish activity and support, when everything calms down, a lot of people in the community are going to hit a mental brick wall, and the fact that a lot of people are already offering support, mentally is absolutely fantastic, and it will really help with the recovery period. And one last to show you, and again, an indication of the upbeat spirit of the group, is that this is the Bridger Canyon whale, and it's a bit of a local legend. It was carved by a local person about 40 years ago, and had various stories to do with it. But the story is that as you drive from Bozeman up to the Bridger Bowl ski area, you don't look at it because you could curse yourself. You could have a little ski fall on axle, stuff like that, but you must salute it on the way back down. And it's become a local legend. And they wanted to make sure that the whale was still standing, and it is still standing. So it's become a bit of a good luck charm. So if the whale is still there, things are going to be all right. You might have been impacted, but things are going to be all right. So that's really good. And I mentioned Bridger Bowl there. And a lot of people have been asking about the Bridger Bowl ski area. So you saw that burn area towards the north and the boundary that has been encroaching and making its way towards the Bridger Bowl area. But there's signs to say that it's not making enough progress to impact the Bridger Bowl area. And a lot of locals are very concerned about the Bridger Bowl because not because they want to go skiing in the winter. It's actually because it's actually quite a large part of the local economy. It's very popular with tourists, things like that. It does bring in a lot of money, and not just for locals, but people come in, and it really is a source. It's a community thing as well. It's a non-profit venture, and it's a source of community as well. So a lot of people are expressing their concern for the ski area there. So just over the last 24 hours ago, the temperatures dropped quite dramatically. I think someone said it went from around almost 90 degrees Fahrenheit-ish down to below 0 Celsius, so 32 degrees Fahrenheit, and there was snow. And not only that, there was snow in some places in the higher altitude, and there was rain and sleet on the lower altitudes in the canyon itself. And actually, I was particularly interested in this one because the house my family has is just up there, so we all had a sigh of relief. We could just see the sleet and the rain just falling on that area, and everybody, doing their rain dances and cheering that's happened. It's just a temporary respite, but it does give the local authorities the chance to fight back this fire and see if they can get some of it contained. But actually, as was mentioned by that volunteer firefighter a bit earlier, I don't know if you saw it, but he said that we're going to go back to a severe alert on Friday, and you can see this is the reason why here, because on Friday, you'll see that the wind starts picking up again. So this is the wind in knots just here, and then you see that it goes back to orange over there, and then the warm temperatures return. There's very little precipitation until into the following week, and you see how the winds even pick up a little bit again. So it's not just the dryness, but it's the wind that causes the problem as well, and that's why he mentioned that they're going to be back on us a bit. So basically, let's try not to get ahead of ourselves. Let's not all try and jump back in. We are going back. We're doubling our efforts now to get ready for this severe kind of period again coming up later on this week. And actually, here's another one. I've changed it to miles an hour here, and you can see here's 4 different weather forecast models here, and 3 of them show there on Friday how the winds are going to pick up again, and they're going to start blowing from from a kind of westerly direction. So then that puts that whole area again at a slight high risk. But they're hoping that there's enough time here to get and the snow and the rain has really helped to kind of get that contained. So you see they're ever vigilant, and they're really doing as much as they possibly can. They're keeping an eye on the weather conditions. And the posts from the authorities are suggesting that please respect the closure. I know things have dampened down and things seem quite good, but don't rush in. Trust us, it's going to get hot again. Don't plan to go hiking in this area. They don't need the extra hassle. They've already got enough of their plate. They don't want to be going to see if they can get people out because they've gone back before that, and it's so difficult, of course, if you've got a property there and you really want to check on things. But the community there are quite good. They'll know that they check with the authorities first, and they work with the authorities, and they've got a good communication going with the residents to get in and out and check on things and whatnot. So that leaves me now coming towards the end of it. I've got a couple more bits to go, but just some fundraisers here and that I picked up. So Chloe, thank you for letting me share this. So Chloe is running an art auction to raise some funds here, and I checked with Chloe, and you can go along to Instagram, Bridger Foothills _art auction, and you can have a look to see what they've got on there. And the auction's going to run on the 20th and 21st of September. And she said that, yeah, if you're happy to pay if you want to bid on something and you're happy to pay for the postage and you're out of state or maybe here in the UK, why not have a go at bid on something if that takes your fancy. And you've got AshLee here as got these really cool t-shirts. And again, I've checked with AshLee, and if you can pay the postage to get it shipped to you, you can get in contact with AshLee. So via that Facebook group and message and say, hey, if I pay you, could you send us one of these t-shirts? Here's my address and whatnot. So that's absolutely fantastic too. So that's two really. You can see how it's not just, can we have some money, please? They're already things are kicking up to as really cool fundraising ways to kind of get back on things. Or if you just want to give some cash, a few dollars or a few pounds or something, then you can visit onevalley.org, and then you just scroll down, you see the Bridger Foothills Fire Relief Fund, and then you just click on donate. And if you're in the area, if you're in the United States or in Montana, you can actually text a number to donate. So I've been asked by a couple of people, because this is my area of expertise now, say, well, is this fire down to climate change? And the answer is, well, we don't know. It's an individual event, and fires are not uncommon, unfortunately, in this part of the world, so we can't attribute this particular fire to the changes in climate. But this assessment, this Montana climate assessment from the MCA, has indicated that the conditions that make these events happen are going to become more likely. So in particular, if I highlight these here, so in this assessment, the Bozeman area and the Bridger Canyon area is in the southwest of Montana, and fire season is generally, the National Weather Service in Great Falls, they say that the fire season's between July and September. So I've just highlighted those blocks here, and you can see here that even under a moderate climate scenario, that the summers are going to get warmer by a few degrees Fahrenheit, and they're going to get drier as well. But it's not just into the fire season. If you look at the rainfall there, you can see that the June is getting drier as well. So the lead into the summer is going to dry. So this is the average conditions, and then this will make the drought conditions even more intense. So it is really, really unfortunate that the predictions seem to say that the conditions that will make this area susceptible to fires is going to get worse. So there's going to be no doubt the community is going to be redoubling their efforts with their mitigation and their adaptation strategies. So everything I mentioned before about how they manage the land, and preparation for any potential outbreaks of fires, you can pretty much be sure that they're on top of that already, because they're aware of these changes into the future. And the other thing too is the thing with climate change as well. I mean, here's a picture of me in 2010 when I visited the Harry Cornwell Kyle Redwood State Park just outside of Santa Cruz, and that currently is parts of that is burning as well right now. So here's the fire map from InciWeb showing that, and I bring this up because it's getting to this point now where events, and in California the wildfires are more attributed to climate change because there've been a lot more studies on them, and it's just to go to show that now I've given two examples where I am, and we've got a friend who lives in Santa Cruz, so who's experienced all these issues, and our thoughts go to her and her family, that we're now, more and more of us are getting directly impacted by these events that can be attributed to climate change. So I make a mention of that because in the upcoming Geographical Association magazine, the GA magazine, if you're the geography teacher here in the United Kingdom, in the next issue, in the autumn issue, I've actually written a piece about why we need to recognise this direct impacts are taking place and how we should think about this being a safeguarding issue into our schools. Okay, I'm not going to end with my usual splash screen as I normally do. Instead, I'll leave it on this one, the fundraisers page. So please do check these out. I mean, if you just want to check them out just to see how things are getting on, or just a dollar or two or a pound or two to the One Valley, that'd be absolutely fantastic, and that will give the chance to have the most vulnerable and the most affected people, whose livelihoods have been completely devastated by this, getting them a chance to get back on their feet and get them the help that they need, to accept to move on from this. And to everybody in the Bridger Canyon community who are out there right now, I mean, I know I'm not a direct member or a day-to-day. I know a couple of you, but I just want from my heart and from my family, I just want to say we hope we all the best and things go well, and and that from what I've seen from this side of the park, I've been absolutely frustrated that I can't be there to physically help, because I certainly would have done. And I know that all the members of my members of the family out there right now are helping, and anybody else who would have been out there would have been straight there to help out without a shadow of a doubt. And I just hope that you think that me doing this video from here in the United Kingdom has helped to spread the word, educate people about what's taking place, and help to raise a little bit of funds for you as well. And my thoughts and wishes go out to you all out there. So please stay safe. So thank you very much, everybody, and I'll continue to update on the Geogramblings blog when I get the chance. So take care, and everybody in Bozeman, stay safe.